The art of decision-making. Decision-making is the quiet force shaping every life. Long before success becomes visible, and long before failure is explained, a decision has already done its work. Every path taken and every path avoided begins with a moment where the mind weighs, hesitates, commits, or retreats. This book is written to explore that moment in depth, not as a collection of tricks or shortcuts, but as a deep understanding of how humans think, choose, and live with the consequences of their choices. From the smallest daily actions to the largest life-defining turns, decisions determine direction. What to study, whom to trust, when to speak, when to stay silent, when to take a risk, and when to wait. Many people drift through life, believing outcomes are ruled by luck or fate. Yet behind nearly every outcome lies a sequence of decisions made consciously or unconsciously. Learning the art of decision-making is learning how to take responsibility for your future without being paralyzed by fear of mistakes. Human beings are not rational machines. We are emotional, habitual, influenced by memory, environment, pressure, and expectation. This is not a weakness to eliminate, but a reality to understand. Good decision-makers are not those who never feel fear or doubt. They are those who recognize these forces and still choose with clarity. They understand themselves before trying to control outcomes. At the heart of decision-making lies awareness. Awareness of your values, your goals, your limitations, and your biases. Without awareness, decisions are reactions. With awareness, decisions become deliberate acts. Most poor decisions are not made because people lack intelligence. They are made because people lack presence in the moment of choice. Consider how often decisions are rushed. A response sent too quickly. A commitment accepted without reflection. An opportunity rejected due to insecurity. Time pressure is one of the greatest enemies of sound judgment. The mind under pressure seeks relief, not truth. It chooses what ends discomfort fastest, not what leads to long-term benefit. Learning to slow down the internal process, even when external time is limited, is a foundational skill. Equally dangerous is indecision. The fear of choosing wrong can lead to choosing nothing. Yet not choosing is itself a decision, often with greater cost than action. Opportunities decay. Situations change. Others decide for you. The art of decision-making includes recognizing when enough information is enough and action is required. Every decision carries uncertainty. Absolute certainty is an illusion. Waiting for it guarantees stagnation. Strong decision-makers learn to operate within uncertainty. They ask better questions instead of demanding perfect answers. They understand probability rather than promises. They accept that outcomes can never be fully controlled, only influenced. Emotion plays a central role in every choice. Even decisions that appear logical are guided by feelings of safety, pride, fear, or desire. Ignoring emotion does not remove its influence. It drives it underground where it becomes more powerful. Wise decision-makers listen to emotion without letting it dominate. They treat emotions as signals, not commands. One of the most overlooked aspects of decision-making is identity. People tend to choose in ways that reinforce how they see themselves. Someone who believes they are unlucky will avoid bold choices. Someone who believes they are resilient will take calculated risks. Changing decisions often requires changing self-perception. When identity evolves, choices follow. Habits are decisions repeated until they no longer feel like decisions. Much of life is governed by these automated choices. What you eat, how you react to stress, whether you plan or procrastinate. Improving decision-making is not only about big moments, but about refining these small daily patterns. Over time, small decisions accumulate into massive outcomes. Social influence shapes choices more than most people realize. Approval, comparison, and fear of judgment quietly guide behavior. Many decisions are made not because they are right, but because they are acceptable to others. The art of decision-making includes developing the courage to choose alignment over approval. This does not mean rejecting advice, but learning to filter it wisely. Regret is often misunderstood. It is not proof of a bad decision, but of a meaningful one. A decision made with honesty and effort can still lead to an undesired outcome. Judging past choices solely by results ignores the information available at the time. Learning to evaluate decisions by process rather than outcome builds confidence and reduces fear. There is a difference between impulsive decisions and intuitive decisions. Impulsivity is reaction without reflection. Intuition is recognition shaped by experience. Developing intuition requires exposure, learning, and reflection. It is not mystical, it is trained perception. The more you understand patterns, the more your intuition becomes reliable. Ethics form the backbone of sustainable decision-making. Short-term gains achieved by compromising values create long-term instability. Decisions aligned with integrity reduce internal conflict and build trust. While ethical choices are not always rewarded immediately, they compound in ways that opportunistic decisions cannot. Decision fatigue is a real phenomenon. The quality of decisions declines as mental energy is depleted. Simplifying routine choices preserves energy for critical ones. This is why structure and systems matter. Successful individuals often reduce trivial decisions to protect focus for what truly matters. Mistakes are inevitable. What separates growth from stagnation is response. Blame locks the mind. Reflection unlocks it. Every decision contains feedback. Those who learn fastest are those who extract lessons without self-condemnation. Resilience is not avoiding mistakes, but recovering wisely. Long-term thinking is a defining trait of strong decision-makers. They consider second and third-order consequences. They ask not only what will happen next, but what will happen after that. This perspective shifts choices from reactive to strategic. Clarity emerges when values are clear. Values act as internal criteria when external information is overwhelming. When you know what matters most, decisions simplify. Without values, every option feels equally confusing. This book will explore decision-making not as a rigid formula, but as a living skill. Through psychology, philosophy, real-life patterns, and practical reflection, you will learn how to choose with confidence, humility, and responsibility. The goal is not to eliminate risk, emotion, or uncertainty, but to engage with them intelligently. The art of decision-making is the art of shaping a life. Every chapter that follows builds upon this truth. Choice by choice, moment by moment, you are creating a direction. Learning how to decide well is learning how to live well. Silence is one of the most underrated tools in decision-making. When the mind is noisy, choices are reactive. Silence creates space between impulse and action. In that space, clarity emerges. Many powerful decisions are not made by adding more information, but by removing noise. The ability to pause is a form of strength. Pausing does not mean avoiding a decision. It means allowing the nervous system to settle so the mind can see clearly. Even a few seconds of conscious breathing before responding can change the direction of a choice. This small habit compounds over time. Another crucial factor is expectation. Expectations shape perception before outcomes occur. When expectations are rigid, decisions are judged harshly. When expectations are flexible, learning becomes possible. A wise decision-maker hopes for the best while preparing for multiple outcomes. People often confuse confidence with certainty. True confidence does not require certainty. It comes from trusting one's ability to adapt. When you know you can adjust after a decision, fear loses its grip. This is why adaptability is more important than prediction. Many decisions fail, not because they were wrong, but because they were unsupported by action. A decision without commitment is merely an intention. Execution is where clarity is tested. Strong decision-makers follow through long enough to see real feedback instead of abandoning choices at the first sign of discomfort. Responsibility is the foundation of decision-making. Blaming circumstances, people, or luck may protect ego, but it weakens agency. When responsibility is accepted, even painful outcomes become sources of power. You cannot control everything, but you can always control your response. There is also a difference between urgency and importance. Urgent decisions demand attention. Important decisions determine direction. Confusing urgency with importance leads to a life of constant reaction. Learning to protect time and energy for important decisions is a mark of maturity. Intuition becomes sharper when aligned with values. When values are unclear, intuition becomes erratic. When values are defined, intuition becomes a compass. Values act as internal filters, eliminating options that may be attractive but misaligned. The quality of questions determines the quality of decisions. Weak questions seek comfort. Strong questions seek truth. Asking what is easiest is different from asking what is right. Asking what avoids pain is different from asking what builds strength. Decision-making also involves letting go. Letting go of outdated goals, expired identities, and imagined futures. Holding on to what no longer fits distorts choice. Growth often requires deciding to release, not acquire. Regret often comes from self-betrayal more than failure. When decisions violate inner values, the discomfort lingers. When decisions honor values, peace remains even if outcomes disappoint. This is why alignment matters more than results. Every decision shapes identity. Each choice votes for the type of person you are becoming. Over time, these votes accumulate into character. Decision-making is not just about outcomes. It is about self-creation. The second part of this book focuses on understanding these invisible forces. Before mastering external choices, one must understand the internal landscape. Awareness precedes control. Understanding precedes mastery. This foundation prepares the mind for the next stage. Learning how to decide when stakes are high, information is incomplete, and consequences matter deeply. High-stakes decisions are different in nature from everyday choices. They carry weight not because of drama, but because their consequences echo over time. These are the decisions about career direction, relationships, integrity, risk, and purpose. They do not announce themselves loudly. Often, they arrive disguised as ordinary moments. One of the biggest mistakes people make with high-stakes decisions is treating them emotionally instead of structurally. Emotion will always be present, but structure prevents emotion from hijacking the outcome. Structure means slowing the process, separating facts from feelings, and recognizing what is truly at risk versus what merely feels at risk. Risk is unavoidable. Every meaningful decision involves risk. The question is never whether risk exists, but whether the risk is conscious or unconscious. Conscious risk is chosen with eyes open. Unconscious risk is accepted by default. Most people fear visible risks while ignoring invisible ones. They fear changing jobs but ignore the risk of staying in stagnation. They fear speaking honestly but ignore the risk of long-term resentment. Uncertainty is not a flaw in decision-making. It is a condition of reality. Waiting for certainty is a strategy for avoidance. Skilled decision-makers learn to move forward with partial information. They build decisions that can survive uncertainty rather than collapse under it. Probability thinking is essential here. Life rarely offers guarantees. Instead, it offers likelihoods. Strong decision-makers think in ranges, not absolutes. They ask what is most likely. what is possible, and what is catastrophic. This reduces emotional extremes and increases realism. Another common trap is overconfidence. Overconfidence feels empowering but blinds judgment. It narrows listening and dismisses warning signals. True confidence remains open to correction. It says, "I believe in my direction, but I am willing to adjust if evidence changes." Conversely, underconfidence is equally dangerous. It causes excessive hesitation and dependence on external validation. Underconfident decision-makers outsource authority over their lives. They seek permission instead of clarity. Over time, this erodes self-trust. The balance lies in grounded confidence. Grounded confidence is built through preparation, honesty, and experience. It accepts vulnerability without surrendering agency. High-stakes decisions require defining success clearly. Vague goals produce confused choices. When success is undefined, any outcome can feel like failure. Clear criteria reduce emotional turbulence. They provide a reference point during doubt. It is also essential to distinguish between what is controllable and what is not. Energy wasted on uncontrollable factors weakens execution. Focusing on controllable actions strengthens momentum. Peace increases when effort is invested where it matters. Timing plays a critical role. Acting too early can be as damaging as acting too late. Patience is not passivity. It is active observation. Knowing when to wait and when to move is an art refined through experience and reflection. Another overlooked element is recovery planning. Wise decision-makers do not only plan for success, they plan for setbacks. They ask what they will do if the decision does not work as hoped. This reduces fear and increases resilience. High-stakes decisions often trigger internal conflict between logic and intuition. Instead of choosing one over the other, skilled decision-makers integrate both. Logic organizes information. Intuition senses alignment. When both point in the same direction, commitment becomes easier. External advice can be valuable, but it must be filtered. Not all advice is informed by your values or context. Listening widely but deciding privately is a powerful rule. Final responsibility must remain with you. Fear of regret often distorts high-stakes decisions. People imagine future regret and let it dictate present action. Yet, regret is inevitable in any life fully lived. The goal is not to avoid regret, but to choose the type of regret you can live with. Regret from action is often lighter than regret from inaction. High-stakes decisions reveal character. They test integrity, patience, courage, and humility. The way a decision is made matters as much as the decision itself. Cutting corners may bring speed, but it often carries hidden costs. Once a high-stakes decision is made, the role shifts from choosing to committing. Doubt after commitment is natural. Reopening the decision repeatedly weakens execution. Strong decision-makers know when to stop deciding and start building. Pressure changes everything. Under pressure, time compresses, emotion intensifies, and perception narrows. Decisions made in these states often define turning points in life, not because they are perfect, but because they reveal how the mind behaves when stability disappears. The first truth about decision-making under pressure is that the mind reverts to its strongest habit. Training does not rise in moments of crisis. Habits do. This is why preparation matters more than motivation. When pressure arrives, there is no time to become disciplined. You act according to what you have practiced. Emotional storms distort judgment. Anger accelerates decisions. Fear delays them. Sadness drains energy. Excitement blinds caution. None of these emotions are enemies, but each carries a bias. The mistake is allowing emotion to decide instead of inform. Naming an emotion reduces its control. When you identify what you are feeling, you create separation between the feeling and the decision. This separation restores choice. A person who says "I am angry" has more control than one who acts as if anger is truth. Pressure often creates a false sense of urgency. Not every urgent feeling requires immediate action. Many decisions feel urgent because discomfort is high, not because timing demands it. Learning to pause even briefly under pressure protects against irreversible mistakes. Another danger is tunnel vision. Under stress, the mind focuses on a single outcome or threat. Alternatives disappear. Asking deliberately what options exist reopens perspective. Even when options are limited, recognizing them restores agency. People under pressure often seek certainty from others. While support is valuable, emotional dependency can distort decisions. Others may offer reassurance or fear based on their own needs. Grounding decisions internally remains essential. Crisis decisions should prioritize stability before optimization. When systems are unstable, the goal is to stop damage, not to achieve perfection. Many errors occur when people attempt complex solutions during emotional chaos. Breathing and body awareness are practical tools in pressured decision-making. Slow breathing signals safety to the nervous system. A regulated body supports a clearer mind. This is not abstract theory. It is biological reality. Guilt and shame frequently appear during pressure. These emotions push toward appeasement or self-punishment. Decisions made to escape guilt rarely lead to healthy outcomes. Responsibility should be accepted without self-destruction. One of the hardest skills is delaying reaction. The gap between stimulus and response is where freedom lives. Training that gap transforms decision quality. Even a short delay allows reason to re-enter. Pressure also reveals values. When comfort is stripped away, what remains important becomes clear. Decisions made in alignment with core values provide strength even in hardship. Learning from pressured decisions requires compassion. Harsh self-judgment prevents insight. Honest reflection allows growth. Asking what worked, what failed, and why builds resilience. Some decisions under pressure cannot be undone. This reality demands humility. Perfection is impossible. What matters is making the most conscious choice available with the resources at hand. Over time, exposure to pressure builds capacity. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. This is how strength is formed. Not by avoiding stress, but by meeting it with awareness. Decision-making does not occur in isolation. Every choice made within a social context creates ripples that affect others, and in return, those ripples influence future choices. Relationships, leadership, and group dynamics introduce complexity because emotions, expectations, and power are shared rather than contained. In relationships, decisions are rarely purely logical. They are deeply intertwined with attachment, fear of loss, desire for belonging, and past experiences. Many relationship conflicts arise not from incompatible values, but from unspoken decisions made unconsciously. Choosing silence instead of honesty. Choosing comfort instead of growth. Choosing avoidance instead of resolution. One of the most important relational decisions is when to speak and when to listen. Speaking too quickly can damage trust. Listening without intention can enable harm. The art lies in timing and clarity. Honest communication is not emotional dumping. It is responsible expression. Boundaries are decisions repeated consistently. A boundary stated but not enforced is not a boundary. It is a request. Clear boundaries reduce resentment and confusion. They teach others how to interact with you. Enforcing boundaries may feel uncomfortable, but failing to do so creates long-term emotional cost. In leadership, decisions carry multiplied consequences. A leader's uncertainty spreads faster than their confidence. Clarity does not require knowing everything. It requires direction and transparency. People follow those who decide with integrity, not those who pretend to be infallible. Leadership decisions must balance empathy with accountability. Overemphasis on empathy leads to inconsistency. Overemphasis on control leads to fear. Strong leaders decide with firmness while remaining human. Group decision-making introduces bias through hierarchy and conformity. People often suppress dissent to maintain harmony. This creates blind spots. Encouraging respectful disagreement improves outcomes. Diversity of thought strengthens decisions when managed well. Power distorts perception. Those in authority receive filtered information. This makes self-reflection essential. Leaders must actively seek feedback, especially when it is uncomfortable. Avoiding criticism creates illusion, not stability. Trust is built through predictable decision-making. When people understand how and why decisions are made, even unfavorable outcomes feel fairer. Transparency reduces resistance. Conflict avoidance is a decision with consequences. Delaying necessary confrontation often escalates problems. Courageous conversations are decisions that protect long-term relationships at the cost of short-term discomfort. Another relational challenge is people-pleasing. Decisions made to gain approval often sacrifice self-respect. Over time, this erodes authenticity. Choosing alignment over acceptance strengthens relationships built on truth rather than performance. In teams, clarity of roles improves decision speed. Ambiguity creates hesitation and conflict. Clear ownership allows faster, better choices. When everyone is responsible, no one decides. Emotional intelligence is critical in social decisions. Reading emotional cues helps anticipate reactions. However, decisions should not be controlled by fear of others' emotions. Respecting feelings does not mean surrendering values. Ending relationships or redefining roles is among the hardest decisions. Fear of change and guilt often delay action, yet staying in unhealthy dynamics extracts a slow cost. Ending well is still a form of care. Social influence should be used ethically. Manipulative decision-making may achieve short-term compliance but destroys trust. Ethical influence aligns incentives with shared goals. Relationships thrive when decisions are revisited consciously. People grow. Context changes. Periodic reflection prevents drift into resentment or stagnation. Every decision is filtered through identity. Long before options are evaluated, the mind asks a silent question: what would someone like me do in this situation? This question shapes choices more powerfully than logic or advice. Understanding this is essential, because changing decisions often requires changing self-perception. Self-image is not who you are, but who you believe you are. It is constructed from past experiences, feedback, culture, and internal narratives. A person who sees themselves as cautious will avoid risk even when opportunity is clear. A person who sees themselves as capable will attempt challenges despite uncertainty. Decisions follow identity with remarkable consistency. Many people attempt to improve their lives by changing actions while leaving identity untouched. This creates friction. The mind resists behaviors that contradict self-image. Sustainable change happens when identity evolves first, allowing decisions to align naturally. Language plays a powerful role in identity-based decision-making. The words you use internally shape behavior. Saying "I am bad at this" creates avoidance. Saying "I am learning" creates engagement. These subtle differences influence willingness to decide and act. Identity can trap as much as it can empower. Labels such as strong, independent, logical, or selfless can become prisons. A person who identifies as strong may avoid asking for help. A person who identifies as logical may dismiss intuition. Flexibility of identity expands decision range. Shame is one of the most damaging forces in identity formation. Decisions made from shame aim to hide, compensate, or prove worth. These decisions are reactive and fragile. Healing shame allows decisions to be made from authenticity rather than defense. Another identity trap is past success. Success creates expectations. People often cling to decisions that once worked even when conditions change. Adapting requires releasing outdated identities. Growth demands humility. The future self is an underused decision tool. Asking what kind of person you want to become reframes choices. Decisions shift from immediate reward to long-term alignment. This perspective strengthens discipline without force. Consistency between identity and action builds self-trust. Every time you follow through on a decision aligned with values, trust increases. Every time you betray yourself, trust erodes. Self-trust is the foundation of confident decision-making. Internal conflict arises when identity is unclear or contradictory. Wanting growth but fearing visibility. Wanting independence but craving approval. Resolving these conflicts requires honest self-inquiry, not forced positivity. Identity is shaped by environment. Who you spend time with, what you consume, and what you practice daily all influence self-image. Designing an environment that supports your desired identity improves decision quality automatically. Letting go of identities is uncomfortable. The ego resists loss of familiarity. But stagnation is often the cost of clinging. Renewal requires courage to be undefined for a time. Decisions that align with emerging identity feel uncomfortable but right. Decisions that align with outdated identity feel comfortable but hollow. Learning to recognize this difference is transformative. Long-term thinking is the ability to see beyond the emotional intensity of the present moment and make decisions that shape the future deliberately. Most people live reactively, responding to what is urgent rather than designing what is important. Strategic decision making shifts life from reaction to direction. Short-term decisions prioritize relief. Long-term decisions prioritize trajectory. Relief feels good now, but fades quickly. Trajectory compounds quietly. The challenge is that the human brain is wired to favor immediate outcomes. Overcoming this bias requires conscious effort and structure. One of the most powerful tools in long-term decision-making is second-order thinking. This means considering not only the immediate result of a decision, but what follows after that. Every choice creates a chain. Wise decision-makers trace that chain forward. Another essential element is patience. Many good decisions fail because they are not given enough time to mature. Impatience leads to constant switching, which destroys momentum. Staying long enough to see real feedback is a strategic skill. Trade-offs are unavoidable. Choosing one path means not choosing another. Avoiding trade-offs is an illusion. Clarity comes from accepting this reality and choosing consciously rather than drifting. Long-term thinkers define non-negotiables. These are values or standards that guide decisions regardless of circumstances. Non-negotiables simplify choices and reduce internal conflict. Designing a life requires intentional constraints. Unlimited options create paralysis. Constraints focus creativity and commitment. Choosing constraints is itself a powerful decision. Consistency outperforms intensity in the long run. Small, repeated decisions shape outcomes more than dramatic changes. Sustainable progress is built through alignment, not bursts of motivation. Long-term decisions benefit from periodic review. Life changes, priorities shift. Reviewing direction prevents misalignment. Reflection turns experience into guidance. Strategic thinking also involves opportunity cost. Time and energy spent on one pursuit cannot be spent elsewhere. Recognizing this sharpens focus. Meaningful goals provide direction. Without meaning, decisions feel empty. Meaning anchors effort during difficulty. Choosing goals aligned with values strengthens endurance. Planning is not about predicting the future. It is about preparing for multiple possibilities. Flexibility is a strategic advantage. Rigidity is fragile. Long-term success requires resilience. Setbacks are not signs of failure, but signals for adjustment. Responding wisely to setbacks preserves momentum. This part emphasizes that good decisions are not isolated acts. They are components of a coherent direction. Strategy is the art of aligning daily choices with long-term purpose. Failure is an inevitable companion of decision-making. To decide is to risk being wrong. Those who avoid failure avoid meaningful choice, and in doing so, avoid growth. The difference between those who evolve and those who stagnate lies not in the absence of failure, but in their relationship with it. Many people judge decisions solely by outcomes. This is a mistake. A well-reasoned decision can lead to a poor result due to factors beyond control. A poorly reasoned decision can sometimes succeed by chance. Wisdom evaluates decisions by process, not by outcome. Regret often emerges from hindsight bias. Once outcomes are known, the mind rewrites the past as if the correct path had been obvious. This creates unnecessary self-blame. Remembering what information was available at the time restores fairness to self-evaluation. There are two types of regret: regret of action and regret of inaction. Research and experience both suggest that regret of inaction tends to last longer. What we did not do haunts us more than what we tried and failed at. This insight can guide courageous decisions. Failure provides data. Every outcome carries feedback. Extracting that feedback requires emotional regulation. Shame blocks learning. Curiosity unlocks it. Asking what this experience is teaching transforms pain into progress. Another common trap is identity-based failure. When failure is interpreted as proof of personal inadequacy, confidence collapses. Separating behavior from identity protects resilience. You made a mistake does not mean you are a mistake. Some failures require acceptance rather than correction. Not every loss can be reversed. Grieving is part of intelligent adaptation. Denial delays healing and clouds future decisions. Recovery after failure is a decision in itself. Choosing to reflect, adjust, and continue builds strength. Choosing to withdraw permanently cements limitation. Mistakes repeated without reflection become patterns. Mistakes examined with honesty become wisdom. The difference lies in attention, not intelligence. Self-forgiveness is not excusing poor decisions. It is releasing self-punishment so learning can occur. Holding on to guilt consumes energy better used for growth. Another overlooked aspect of failure is timing. Acting too early or too late can produce negative outcomes even when direction is right. Understanding timing refines future judgment. Comparing failures to others' successes distorts perception. Public narratives hide struggle. Private comparison is rarely fair. Measuring progress against your own values and learning curve is healthier. Failure also clarifies priorities. What truly matters becomes visible when comfort disappears. Decisions after failure are often more aligned than those made before. This part reframes failure as a teacher rather than a verdict. Decision-making matures when fear of failure is replaced by respect for learning. Intuition is often misunderstood. Some dismiss it as irrational. Others treat it as mystical. In reality, intuition is compressed experience. It is the mind recognizing patterns faster than conscious thought can articulate. Mature decision-makers do not oppose intuition and logic. They integrate them. Intuition becomes reliable through exposure and reflection. Without experience, intuition is guesswork. With experience, it becomes guidance. The key difference lies in feedback. Those who reflect on outcomes train intuition. Those who do not repeat mistakes blindly. There is a danger in romanticizing intuition. Acting on instinct without questioning context can lead to impulsivity. Wise intuition is calm, not urgent. It feels grounded rather than emotionally charged. Learning to recognize this difference refines judgment. Logic provides structure. Intuition provides direction. Logic asks how. Intuition asks whether. When both align, decisions feel clear and grounded. When they conflict, further reflection is required. Wisdom grows from pattern recognition across time. It sees similarities beneath surface differences. This allows faster, better decisions in complex situations. Wisdom does not eliminate uncertainty. It increases confidence in navigating it. Experienced decision-makers know when not to decide. They recognize when information is insufficient or emotions are too intense. Restraint is as important as action. Humility is a cornerstone of mature judgment. Acknowledging limits keeps the mind open. Arrogance closes it. Wisdom listens before deciding. Intuition is strengthened by stillness. Constant noise dulls perception. Quiet allows subtle signals to surface. Many insights arrive when the mind is relaxed, not forced. Values act as an anchor for intuition. When values are clear, intuitive signals become more coherent. When values conflict, intuition feels chaotic. Learning to trust intuition requires self-trust. This trust is built through alignment between values, decisions, and actions. Betraying oneself weakens intuition. Honoring oneself strengthens it. Wisdom also involves knowing when advice no longer applies. Context changes. What worked before may not work now. Adapting wisdom to present reality is essential. Mature decision-making is less about certainty and more about coherence. Decisions feel internally consistent even when outcomes are uncertain. This coherence brings peace. This part highlights that the highest level of decision-making blends experience, reflection, logic, and intuition into a unified process. Mastering decision-making is not only about extraordinary moments. It is built in the daily habits that shape every day. Small choices, repeated consistently, compound into significant outcomes over time. Attention to these routines is where the art of living intentionally emerges. One foundational habit is prioritization. Every day presents dozens, even hundreds of decisions. Which tasks, relationships, and opportunities deserve attention? Without deliberate prioritization, energy is scattered. Strategic daily decisions are guided by long-term goals, values, and desired identity. Another daily habit is reflection. Taking time each day to review choices allows lessons to accumulate. Which decisions aligned with values? Which were reactive? Reflection is not judgment. It is calibration. Small adjustments compound into wisdom. Clarity in decision-making comes from simplicity. Reduce unnecessary options where possible. Simplifying clothing choices, meals, or routines preserves mental energy for meaningful decisions. Decision fatigue is real. Managing trivial choices is a powerful strategy. Awareness of emotional state is a daily practice. Before major decisions, pause to check how stress, fatigue, or emotion may be influencing judgment. Awareness does not eliminate influence, but it allows you to decide consciously instead of react unconsciously. Journaling is a practical tool. Writing thoughts and options clarifies priorities, reveals patterns, and engages the rational mind in dialogue with intuition. Journals become a mirror for identity and alignment. Setting clear boundaries is a daily habit that strengthens decision integrity. Boundaries prevent reactive choices made under pressure or social influence. They create space for intentional action. Time management is inseparable from decision-making. How you allocate hours each day reflects your priorities and values. Protecting time for important but non-urgent activities, learning, reflection, planning, ensures that life moves strategically rather than chaotically. Daily decisions also benefit from feedback loops. Experimentation with small choices allows testing assumptions safely. Not every decision has to carry maximal consequence. Learning in low-risk contexts builds confidence for higher-stakes choices. Accountability is another habit. Sharing goals and decisions with a trusted person increases follow-through. Social structures reinforce clarity, discipline, and reflection. Gratitude is a subtle but powerful habit. Recognizing what works reduces reactive fear-based decisions. It shifts attention from scarcity to possibility, which expands choice. Finally, daily practice cultivates resilience. Not every decision succeeds. Habits of reflection, learning, and adaptation strengthen the capacity to recover and improve continuously. Over time, this daily structure transforms reactive lives into intentional, meaningful lives. The art of decision-making is not a destination. It is a living process, built moment by moment, habit by habit. Every choice, no matter how small, is an opportunity to practice mastery, alignment, and courage. The art of decision-making is a skill that grows with every choice you make. It is built not only in extraordinary moments, but in the small, daily decisions that shape your character, your relationships, and your trajectory. Every choice, from the simplest to the most complex, teaches something if you pay attention. Awareness is the first step. Pause, breathe, and notice what is influencing you. Emotions, memories, biases, and external pressures all enter the process silently, yet powerfully. Recognizing them is the start of control. Values act as an internal compass. Decisions aligned with values feel coherent even when outcomes are uncertain. When you know what matters most, many options fall away naturally. Logic organizes information, intuition senses alignment, and together they guide you toward choices that feel both sound and authentic. Understanding that failure is part of the process prevents fear from paralyzing action. Mistakes are not verdicts, they are lessons. Reflecting on what worked, what failed, and why transforms failure into wisdom. Daily habits determine decision quality. Prioritization, reflection, journaling, and clear boundaries preserve energy for important choices. Simplicity and routine reduces decision fatigue and increases focus. Small, consistent decisions compound into life-defining outcomes. Time management ensures energy is invested where it matters. Awareness of your emotional state protects clarity under stress. Accountability and feedback sharpen judgment. Gratitude and perspective expand possibilities, allowing better choices even in challenging circumstances. Identity shapes decisions profoundly. Who you believe yourself to be influences what you perceive as possible or acceptable. Shifting identity consciously allows new choices to emerge. Letting go of outdated self-images, past failures, and limiting narratives frees the mind to act in alignment with evolving values. Self-trust is built when actions reflect authenticity, reinforcing confidence in future choices. Courage comes from repeated practice, especially in moments of discomfort. Decision-making in social contexts adds complexity. Relationships, teams, and leadership require balancing empathy, integrity, and clarity. Honest communication, clear boundaries, and ethical influence build trust and reduce unnecessary conflict. Leadership multiplies the impact of choices. Strong leaders decide with transparency, take responsibility for outcomes, and cultivate feedback without fear. Social pressure should be acknowledged, but not allowed to override values. High-stakes decisions, under pressure, in uncertainty or crisis, require preparation and self-mastery. Recognizing stress, regulating emotion, and pausing before acting allows reason to guide instinct. Timing, commitment, and reflection prevent impulsivity. Planning for setbacks, considering multiple scenarios, and distinguishing controllable factors from uncontrollable ones strengthens resilience. Courage, patience, and humility become allies in navigating complex choices. Long-term thinking reframes daily decisions. Immediate relief is often tempting but fleeting. Thinking in terms of trajectory, second and third order consequences, and meaningful outcomes shifts focus to alignment and growth. Trade-offs are inevitable. Choosing consciously between paths rather than drifting increases coherence in life. Strategic decision-making integrates values, timing, risk, and resilience to create momentum toward long-term goals. Ultimately, the art of decision-making is the art of living intentionally. Every decision is a vote for the person you are becoming. Every choice accumulates into character, reputation, and the life you experience. Mastery is continuous. Awareness, reflection, courage, alignment, and adaptation guide the process. Each step, however small, is an opportunity to practice, to refine, and to live with clarity and purpose. Decision-making is not about perfection. It is about coherence, authenticity, and growth. With each conscious choice, you shape your life, define your identity, and move steadily toward fulfillment.
Consider a young professional deciding whether to accept a new job in a city far from home. On the surface, it is just a career move, but the decision contains multiple layers. Emotion fears leaving comfort and family. Logic evaluates salary, growth, and stability. Intuition senses whether the new environment aligns with identity and long-term goals. The wise approach is to slow down, reflect, and examine priorities. What does this choice say about values? What opportunities may it open or close? By separating fear from reality and curiosity from desire, the decision becomes clearer and less intimidating. Acting with alignment rather than reaction ensures that the choice contributes to growth, even if challenges arise. Daily life offers similar decisions in smaller doses. Choosing what to eat, how to spend free time, or when to respond to a message may seem trivial, but repeated patterns form habits that define energy, focus, and character. A person who consistently chooses healthful meals, dedicated learning, or thoughtful reflection is unconsciously shaping a life of resilience and purpose. Conversely, neglecting small decisions may leave life reactive, fragmented, and unaligned with deeper goals. Decision-making under pressure illustrates the interplay of emotion and cognition. Imagine an emergency at work or at home where immediate action is required. Fear, urgency, and stress can narrow perception, making certain options appear more attractive or threatening than they truly are. The mind reverts to habitual patterns, so preparation and practice matter. Professionals trained for crises, firefighters, doctors, pilots, rarely act on instinct alone. They combine training, reflection, and emotional regulation to make rapid yet deliberate decisions. We can apply the same principle in daily life by preparing for stress, practicing self-control, and learning to pause, even briefly, before responding. Social dynamics further complicate choice. People often defer to others, seeking approval or avoiding conflict. This may feel safe in the short term but can erode authenticity. A manager who consistently chooses consensus over conviction may protect comfort but gradually loses authority and respect. The antidote is clarity of values and courage to align decisions with those values, while communicating respectfully. Decisions in relationships also require balance. Speaking honestly, listening intently, and enforcing boundaries ensures that choices contribute to trust and mutual growth, rather than confusion or resentment. Failure and regret are integral to mastering decision-making. A student who invests effort into a project but receives a poor grade can view it as a personal flaw or as feedback on approach, preparation, or assumptions. Evaluating choices based on process rather than outcome creates a mindset of learning. Reflective journaling, honest self-assessment, and extracting actionable lessons from missteps convert regret into strategic insight. Those who fear failure excessively often avoid meaningful opportunities. Those who embrace failure as information learn faster, develop resilience, and refine their intuition. Intuition, honed through experience, allows quicker, more reliable decision-making. An experienced entrepreneur senses when a business opportunity is viable or when a partnership is risky. Patterns from past successes and failures condense into instinctive understanding. But intuition alone is insufficient. It must be integrated with logic, reflection, and values. Acting on intuition without preparation risks impulsivity. Logic without intuition risks rigidity. The art is blending both. Long-term thinking provides a framework for prioritizing decisions. Immediate discomfort or temptation often conflicts with future goals. A person training for a marathon resists the ease of skipping workouts, understanding that cumulative effort produces results. Similarly, financial, career, and personal decisions compound over years. Small, aligned choices daily outweigh sporadic bursts of extreme effort. Strategic thinking, awareness of opportunity costs, and disciplined trade-offs ensure that actions today contribute meaningfully to the life envisioned. Identity is at the heart of decision-making. Who you believe yourself to be dictates the choices you perceive as possible. A person who identifies as resilient will attempt challenges despite fear. A person who sees themselves as cautious will avoid the same opportunities. Changing decisions often requires evolving identity, adopting beliefs and self-perceptions that align with the choices you wish to make. Each decision then reinforces identity, creating a feedback loop of growth and confidence. Ultimately, decision-making is a living practice. It requires awareness, reflection, courage, and alignment. Each choice is a building block, shaping character, relationships, and trajectory. Mastery is achieved not by avoiding mistakes or uncertainty, but by engaging consciously, learning consistently, and acting with integrity. The art lies in the accumulation of small, thoughtful decisions, integrated with long-term vision, social awareness, and personal authenticity. Life unfolds through choice, and each moment offers the opportunity to practice, refine, and excel in this art. Imagine a parent deciding how to guide a teenager facing peer pressure. On the surface, the choice is simple: allow freedom or enforce strict rules. Yet the layers are complex. Fear of failure as a parent, desire to maintain a relationship, concern for the child's safety, and awareness of long-term character development all intersect. The wise parent pauses, reflects on values, consults experience, and considers the child's perspective. The decision is not made by impulse or fear, but by integrating logic, empathy, and intuition. Acting with consistency and clarity, the parent reinforces trust while providing guidance, modeling responsible decision-making for the next generation. In professional life, decisions often involve risk and uncertainty. Consider an employee choosing whether to propose a new initiative to leadership. The decision is influenced by self-confidence, perception of organizational culture, and potential impact on career trajectory. Hesitation may protect from immediate embarrassment, but limits growth. Courageous action, informed by careful analysis and preparation, creates opportunity even if the idea is initially rejected. The process matters as much as the outcome. Preparing thoroughly, communicating clearly, and learning from feedback ensures that every decision contributes to experience and skill. Even mundane decisions, repeated daily, shape life profoundly. Choosing to read for 30 minutes instead of scrolling social media, deciding to exercise instead of staying sedentary, or opting to practice mindfulness instead of reacting impulsively trains the mind and body. These small, consistent decisions compound over months and years, building energy, clarity, and resilience. Neglecting them may seem inconsequential, but their cumulative effect can be life-defining. Decision-making under pressure requires emotional regulation. Imagine a doctor in an emergency room with multiple critical patients. Panic, fatigue, and stress are intense. Training, preparation, and calm presence allow the doctor to prioritize, act decisively, and maintain quality of care. In everyday life, though stakes may feel smaller, the same principles apply. When emotions rise, pausing, regulating breathing, and consciously reviewing options can prevent impulsive or regrettable choices. Relationships offer continual tests of decision-making. Choosing honesty over avoidance, clarity over ambiguity, and boundaries over appeasement strengthens connection. Conversely, yielding to fear of conflict or desire for approval can lead to resentment, misunderstanding, and erosion of trust. Daily practice in communication, empathy, and reflection enhances the quality of relational choices. Failure, when reframed, becomes a teacher. A writer whose manuscript is rejected repeatedly can either succumb to self-doubt or use feedback to improve craft, strengthen resilience, and refine strategy. Every setback contains information about what works, what doesn't, and how to adjust. Those who fear failure excessively remain stagnant. Those who embrace it consciously grow faster. Intuition, honed through reflection and experience, is a powerful guide. A seasoned negotiator senses when compromise is optimal or when insisting on terms is necessary. Intuition integrates subtle cues, past patterns, and internal alignment, often faster than conscious thought. The challenge is ensuring that intuition is informed, not reactive. Training, feedback, and awareness refine intuitive decision-making. Long-term thinking anchors daily choices in purpose. A student deciding whether to study for an extra hour or relax must weigh short-term comfort against long-term growth. A professional choosing between immediate salary versus career trajectory must consider cumulative effect over years. Strategic long-term perspective turns everyday choices into instruments of growth, aligning action with vision and values. Identity influences all decisions. Who you see yourself to be, capable, resilient, ethical, courageous, affects what options you consider viable. Shifting identity intentionally allows access to choices previously thought impossible. Each aligned decision reinforces self-trust, creating a feedback loop that strengthens both confidence and competence. Daily habits consolidate mastery. Reflection, journaling, clear priorities, boundary setting, and focused action build capacity over time. Awareness of emotions, attention to environment, and consistent practice sharpen judgment. Each choice, no matter how small, becomes a training ground for skill, resilience, and alignment. The art of decision-making is ultimately the art of life. Each choice contributes to character, relationships, opportunity, and fulfillment. Mastery is continuous, requiring patience, humility, and courage. By observing, reflecting, learning, and acting consistently, every individual can transform fear into clarity, hesitation into action, and uncertainty into opportunity. Life unfolds through decision, and every moment is a chance to practice, refine, and excel. Conclusion: decision-making is not just a skill, it is the lens through which life unfolds. Every choice, from the smallest daily action to the most consequential life-altering moment, shapes identity, character, relationships, and destiny. The art of decision-making is the art of living intentionally. Throughout this journey, several truths become clear. Awareness is the foundation. Pausing, observing, and reflecting before acting allows clarity to emerge. Values act as an internal compass, guiding choices toward coherence and integrity. Logic and intuition work best when integrated. Logic structures, intuition senses alignment. Failure is inevitable, but when reframed as feedback, it becomes a teacher rather than a verdict. Courage, patience, and humility are essential companions, helping navigate uncertainty, pressure, and high-stakes situations. Daily habits compound into mastery. Prioritization, reflection, journaling, boundary setting, time management, and consistent practice strengthen judgment and resilience. Identity shapes decisions profoundly. Who you believe yourself to be determines the range of choices you consider possible. Aligning actions with evolving identity transforms hesitation into confidence. Decision-making in social context, relationships, leadership, and teamwork requires clarity, empathy, and ethical influence. Transparent communication, consistent boundaries, and responsible action build trust and minimize conflict. Strategic long-term thinking ensures that daily choices contribute to growth and life alignment, rather than temporary relief or distraction. Ultimately, the art of decision-making is about coherence. It is about ensuring that thoughts, emotions, actions, and values align in each choice. It is about learning from experience, refining intuition, and integrating wisdom into everyday life. It is about transforming fear into clarity, indecision into action, and uncertainty into opportunity. The final lesson is simple but profound. Practice the art of decision-making consciously, consistently, and with integrity. Start with the next decision, however small, and let it be a step toward mastery. Over time, these steps accumulate, creating momentum, resilience, and a life defined by clarity, courage, and intentionality.